Just a heads up.
I moved.
No, I'm just, you don't have to, like, just a heads up.
Yeah, but
Okay.
now that I know, I don't want to.
No, I saw my picture too, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what you prefer.
Why, how big is this camera range?
What I'm saying here is,
Oh, look.
Actually, now that we hear it.
I cannot now.
You guys see how I look like that?
You're not gonna be able to.
Okay. The name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God. This is a topic that was requested before a couple of times, and I did it once before, and I tried to improve it a little bit for the grad meeting. It was done for someone else, but we want to understand a few things about it. And anything I say, don't get offended. Anything I say, I myself work on it. So, but we have to understand a little bit more about the Christianity and finance. What we're going to discuss is like 5 points: the importance of money, and should we pay taxes? And I don't need you to answer because I know some people work here for CRA, so I want to be careful. And financial balance and managing God's money. And I don't know why we call it God's money, but we'll see. And how the rich can get saved, because I know you're all rich. So okay, we care about you. So we'll take the first one, the importance of money. Money is very important. So someone say that's not important. It is important because simply what you do with it decide, even if you have little or much, still what you do with it, it's going to affect your eternity. So that's why money is important. So we cannot ignore that fact. But want to be careful that someone think if you do not have money, you are not successful. If you don't have money, you are not successful spiritually because God did not bless you. This is all the wrong teaching. There is a new teaching that's coming out in the last few years. They call it the prosperity gospel, which is I want to attract more people to Christianity. So I'll tell you, if you become a Christian, God will bless you and will give you money and will give you health. And it is not, it is definitely, that happens also, like God does that all the time, He bless you, but not the way that okay, I'm going to become Christian for that reason. Then you're going to be shocked and surprised by this, because in so many verses in the Bible that says, for example, one of them in the Psalm says, many are the afflictions of the righteous. So if I'm coming to Christianity for that reason, so why I will have afflictions if I'm righteous? So this kind of contradicts the prosperity gospel. And it says, if anyone desire to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So just the fact we are Christian, every one of us carrying a cross of some sort, and it's we're living with it every day. So this is something just to keep in mind. There is a common saying that it says that, money is the root of all evil. And of course, this is wrong. It sounds right. It sounds practical, and it sounds like we can blame it on this. But the real verse, it says, for the love of money is the root of all evil. And money in itself, it is not evil. It's the love. And we see in the Bible so many characters that they, like say Joseph, Abraham, they both had so many riches, and they were holy, they were righteous. So the money did not corrupt them, and their life was more. I know the example is not accurate enough. You cannot buy a gun for $100, but just for the fact of just it's like it says, money is neutral. You can buy for $100. A stolen gun, if we can say, because you can get $100 a new gun, or you can feed a family. So money in itself is neutral. So that's why it is important to understand that the love of money is actually causes all the issues. Also, we have the expression that always says that, or the verse that it says, and again I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. So sometimes in our mind comes right away that like there is no hope for the rich to go to heaven. and just because there is no way a camel can go through the, the eye of the needle. But the actual, just the eye of the needle, it's just that little door here. So basically, in the end of the day in Jerusalem, and I actually went to that 2.5 years ago, and I seen that door. They closed the big door when it started to get dark. But if someone didn't come back from the field early enough, then they have to get the camel to go and his, down like this, and kind of unload the camel from whatever he has in his back, and try to drag him through that little door, and that little door is called the eye of the needle. So why I'm saying this, because if you put in your mind the rich cannot go to heaven, that's wrong. And we've seen examples like Abraham and Joseph that they actually went there. Should we pay taxes to the government? Because it is an issue, and we all kind of try to avoid it. So we'll see what the Bible says about it.
Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. For because of this you also pay taxes, for they are God's ministers, attending continually to this very thing. Render therefore to all their due, taxes to whom taxes are due.
Yeah, so St. Paul is telling us that we pay taxes. There's authorities, whether you like it or you don't, and it doesn't matter which party is in control, but anyone, they all try actually to do well. You might find sometimes there is corruption to a certain level, something is not right. It doesn't give us an excuse not to pay taxes. So we have to pay taxes to be part of the society. Sometimes, of course, tax can go in a good way, and sometimes it goes in a bad way, but most of the time it's used in a good way. Do you mind reading this?
Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine.
Yeah, so this is when Pharaoh saw a dream, and he didn't understand what's the dream, so he went to Joseph, and Joseph explained to him that will be 7 years of 7 good years and 7 years of famine, and told him, since you knew the dream, I'll appoint you to solve this issue, find a way that we can avoid this famine and people from perishing. And that's how the first tax ever was introduced to mankind by the Egyptians, like by Joseph. So, but was 1/5, was 20%. Not CRA taxes, it was 54%. So, and the point of it is, if the tax was not there, people will perish, because someone got appointed someone to manage this in everybody's behalf. And I know we can have all the excuses in the world not to pay taxes, but as you see over and over in the Bible, that it is a must to pay tax, but we'll just keep. Here, for example, it says, therefore, because you treat down a poor and take grain taxes. So even if it was not money, if you have a field and you have to donate some of what you have as a taxes. And but God is warning them, say, though you have built houses of hewn stone, yet you shall not dwell in them. You have planted pleasant vineyards, but you shall not drink wine from them. So if you take taxes by force, and someone that needed a break and poor to build something for yourself, like a mansion, this is in front of God, will be a punishment at some point. Yes, we have to pay the taxes, but if you ever have been in a position, you decide who do you take from, just to be careful that it's not because of someone in control means can do whatever he wants. Then also this in Nehemiah was another proof that there is taxes, that they said there were also those who said, we have borrowed money for the king's tax in our land and vineyard. So people they were taxed so much, so badly, that they actually had to borrow money, like they don't have this money. So they have to borrow money so they can pay the king's tax, so he can live in a luxurious way. And this is, again, unfair and it's not right, but this is just to prove that taxes was always there. And this one as well, they were building the city, and let it now be known to the king that it is the city. If the city is built and completed, they will not pay tax, because if someone build a city and doesn't need a protection from the governor or the, of the or the king, then they're gonna stop paying the taxes. So the taxes was all the time. This is obviously the ultimate, because Jesus Christ himself was put to that test, and George, do you mind reading it? And then he proved to us that we have to pay taxes as well.
Tell us, is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But Jesus perceived their wickedness and said, why do you test me, you hypocrite? Show me the tax money. So then they brought him a denarius, and he said to them, bring them therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's.
So we have to separate those two things from each other. If we live, say, in Canada, and this is the rules and this is the guidelines, we follow it. You might want to change that. You don't like it. Change it through the proper channels, through authorities, meaning you have election coming. You choose whoever you feel is the right person for this. And you can't say they're all bad. There is someone you try at least to change the system as much as you can. So, like, those who received even in the temple back then, which is, I don't want to say it's a church, but the temple, there was a temple tax. So that, I don't want to, I just wanted to, this is the conclusion, that Jesus himself had to pay the tax. And I found one of the writers was actually saying it is for us as Christians to obey that. And it's even a privilege that we are known as a good citizens in the society if we are paying the tax and respecting it, not trying to avoid it. Any questions so far? No. How to achieve financial balance? Because sometimes we're all over the place, and it's sad because I find people don't know even what to do with the money, don't know how to handle it, and it's not that difficult, but it just to quickly to talk about it. So keeping an eye on the target, you just know, you need to know where is your money. I know not too many people follow budget like this at all. I'm not one of them. And that's not because I don't understand it or I don't want to follow. It's just because I do it on my head on the fly. So that's why. But not everybody can do math on the fly. So you can actually have something like this. Then you would know where your money is coming and going and what you want to do with it. So you need to track it. And most people make enough money. Most people make enough money, but they just spend it immediately. And they just have no idea where the money went. And of course, if you don't write this, sometimes I personally, I fall on the same thing, that I feel like, there's money missing. And then you go on your bank statement, you find Amazon. so just Starbucks. I can't go to Starbucks just because of the lineup and the time, so I'm saved from that. But Amazon, there's no lineup, you just click and it's yours. Constant corrections, because of course, we need to stay out of debt. And if somehow you are in debt, okay, so you need to correct that by trying to pay it as fast as you can. So this is important. You have extra money, use it wisely, because sometimes our extra money, we go spend it right away. And we don't even think about it. It's like extra money. I remember when I started my first company in 1990, we got a huge contract from the Australian Olympics event, and we won 130,000, not one, we made $130,000 profit. So I was the president, but I was new. I didn't know anything, but my business partner, Ken, his dad was my mentor, and he's a CA, retired CA. So I told him, we're going to distribute $100,000 to the owners and keep 30,000 in the company just in case. I said, no, why you are doing this? We made profit. I said, okay, how much your company spend per month? I said, about 50,000. I said, okay, if you don't have any work for 3 months, you don't even have enough for that. You need $150,000 out of 130. So you cannot touch this money. This is not yours. You keep it because you don't know if you're going to get another order or not. You don't want to lay anybody off. So if we don't know how to deal, like you have money in your hand and you just go spend it on something, You have to think that there is a rainy day coming at some point, and then you have to keep that in mind, not to be like, greedy and spend, you don't spend a penny, but just I'm saying you need corrections. There is some, we need to know also what's the goal of me making money, because sometimes the goal is distorted and is not accurate. Sometimes you say, I want to provide for my family. And then every dollar you make, it's just for my family, as if God created just your family in this world. And this is sometimes is not good, because you are missing out on helping the needy. Making all the money I can, okay, but then you end up that your kids grow up. And I remember that someone was a CEO of a company in Gatineau. He was saying, so what, I missed my daughter's dance class, but I made her enough money that she doesn't need to work if she doesn't want. But his daughter didn't see him enough. It's not a dance class. He's just saying that as an expression, but she hardly know him. So this is some people that just love the business environment and the work environment and making money, and disregard the family. And of course, this even causes problems with the relationship, not just with the kids, also with the spouse. Saving as much money as I can to have financial freedom, but then you end up to be really, greedy, and you are not giving anyone around you. You're not helping anyone. Just to thinking, okay, because what if I live to the age of 90 and we're worried about the future? And then many people actually die and don't even enjoy their money. Spend as much money as I can. And I seen actually people this way, they just keep buying expensive stuff. Once they have money, they buy it, spend it on themselves, because they don't know what if I die tomorrow. And this is also not, all of these are not, it demonstrates like imbalance. So it's not accurate. The goal is to honor God. So God give you money, and you have to honor God through this money somehow. We'll see how in a way. So, Anne-Marie, can you read this for us? This is just to summarize that the money we have, we know the verse, it's a shorter verse, we say it often, which is, and of your own, we give you. Like what that means is God puts, my salary in my hand, it's $1,000, and I take and I give him, and God thank me, oh, thank you for you donated the money, but he's the one give it to me from the beginning. But I want you to see where it came from, the whole history. Go ahead.
Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power and the glory, the victory and the majesty, for all that is in heaven and on earth is yours. Yours is the kingdom, O Lord, and you are exalted as head over all. Both riches and honor come from you, and you reign over all. In your hand is your power and might. In your hand it is to make great and to give strength to all. But who am I, and who are my people, that you should be able to offer so willingly as this? For all things come from you, and you have given me.
Yeah, so we have to think. You might say, you just don't fall into the trap as I worked hard for my money. No, God gave you the health to work. Someone else doesn't even that health to work hard. You cannot say, well, I studied 10 years to become a doctor to make this money. God gave you that intellectual, brain that can absorb more than others to be in that career. So anything you have to contribute it to God. It's very clear here. It's not from us. Even the business. We often don't know even where the order is coming from and why you choose us over someone else as a competitor. So it's all in God's hands. So that's important to know that. I wanted to just this 3 minutes video to summarize what I want to say more than.
Oh man, this is a great topic. Money is always a topic in the church. Listen, first of all, I think number one, it goes to trust. And if for whatever reason, God has graced us with the abilities, the talent, the wisdom, or whatever, to attract money. Not a bad thing. Nowhere in the Bible does it say money is evil. He says the love of money is evil. So I think that, first of all, I think whether you have money or whether you don't, trust is a key factor in the Lord of taking care of your needs. Okay? So in other words, if you trust in your money, that's wrong. because you have it. In other words, there's a lot of rich people who've had money and then they lose it, right? And you can't trust in it. The bottom line is you gotta trust the Lord, not your own ability to make wealth, not your own bank account, not your own 401k. You gotta trust the Lord. The second thing is you've really, really gotta check yourself for selfishness, right? You've got to figure out if greed is becoming a part of your life because you have money. And greed can be a part of your life even when you don't have money. So I think it goes both ways in this thing, but it's really important that we trust the Lord, that we check ourselves for selfishness. And then the third, and I think probably as important as the rest, is stewardship. We have to look at our lives as stewards rather than owners. So in other words, God, every good gift comes from the Father of lights. James tells us that. So your resources, our resources, the money that we make, the things that we have are all gifts from God. Now, they're not ours though. We steward them. And so it's important to recognize that we're not the owners in this thing, but all that we've been given, we steward, and we need to steward well. Not just what it would give, but we need to steward what we live on. And so I think trusting the Lord in your money and with your provision, checking yourself for selfishness, and then being a good steward of what you've been given, whether you have little or whether you have much. Be a good steward. It's not yours, it's his.
What that means to me is the stewardship is the important part that I liked when I did this presentation before, and I was reading a lot about it before I do it, because I discovered the money I have is not mine. As simple as that. And I'm just using part of it for myself, but the rest is not mine. And if we can actually come to that conclusion, I know it's not everyone yet in advancing his career, and not everyone has money, but if you don't put that still in your mind now, and as you said, sometimes you are greedy and you don't have anything, and so it is not, it's just something, a way of thinking. So you have to think what you have is God put it in your hand, whether it's little or much. Why I'm saying, let's say because I see this often. I see this is often that someone say, I'm gonna give to the needy once I'm making enough money. And this is a trap from the devil, because you end up, when you make enough money, it is not enough. And if it actually becomes enough, the greed is already built over the years that you cannot give anything out of this money. And a good practice to do, and forgive me for this, that being, because I'm a treasurer, so I see sometimes the donations, sometimes I have a bad memory, I don't remember who donated what, honestly. But sometimes what I don't like to see, and again, don't get me in this, is like, say someone made $5,000 and like, you know, 5,275 cents. Then I find they donate $500, you know, on 26 and 75 cents. And that, when I see that, it just bothers me so much, because obviously it's not because of the money that the church I wanted more, no. It's just because I feel the person is missing out that the tithe is the 10% of your money. This is just the Old Testament rules. We're supposed to give them this, more than this. So I'm not saying to give more, but at least round up the penny amount to the next dollar. And after they get over it, that, oh, it doesn't actually hurt. How about round it up to the next $10? So instead of $526.25, then becomes $527, and next time it becomes $530. And then you can maybe round it to the next $100. So it's $600 even. Then God does not like that he owe you anything. Then when you do this, he gives you more, because he doesn't want you to owe him. Then you feel, oh, God is giving me more, I don't deserve it. You give him more, then he feels bad. No, I have to give you more, and this is how you become rich. So anyway, so next time, just round it up to the next dollar, at least. How the rich can be saved, because we talked, like, you know, and we know the story of the you can read it, Marina, you want reading this?
Jesus and the rich young ruler. Then Jesus, looking at him, loved him and said to him, one thing you lack. Go your way, sell whatever you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. and come, take up the cross and follow me. But he was sad at this word and went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions.
Yeah, so once the love of money in our heart, then we cannot really be a good Christian. And it got nothing to do, again, of course, in this case, with someone is rich and now he is not doing well because he's attached to his money so much that Jesus told them to, follow me and carry your cross, and he couldn't. He left sad, and someone met Jesus person to person, it's not like us, we talking about it, and it's faith. He met him person to person, and in another somewhere else in the Bible it says Jesus looked, unless it's here, yeah, it's here. It says looked at him and loved him. So imagine Christ himself loved that person and looked at him with love, and then still he didn't go well. So in order to avoid that, if you are how the rich can be saved by generosity, by not being greedy, but because when you give more, it's not about the person in front of you is getting more, or the organization or church or whatever you're donating to. It's about you made a control over yourself that this money is not mine. I'm a stewardship and I'm actually managing it, and I have enough. I can give a little bit more. Of course, you do it with wisdom and you discern who do you give to, because you might give it to someone doesn't know how to handle it. And we've seen that a lot when you serve the poor sometimes in a certain area. You give them like a chunk of money, they just go buy a TV, honestly. And it's like, you would think, because they're so poor, that they actually keep it and use it in a bad day or buy food or necessity, but they just go, they don't know. It's not that they mean bad, they just don't know how to handle money. So just being generous, but it's you have to, with wisdom. Thanksgiving, you need to thank God daily for what you have, because as he said, even rich people, they go broke. So it's not, you cannot trust in your money. Something can go wrong, and it's obviously, all the money you have is can be gone. Like it can be just an illness or a person somewhere that to do the cure for it, you have to travel to a different country and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to be cured for it, and then the money is gone. So you cannot trust that. You have to thank God. Good deeds, to be in the hunt always for a good deed, meaning you in any environment around you, you hear about a project being started, they are gonna start a daycare, and they're looking for their fundraising. Don't look at it with the ways of another venue that we have to donate to. Look at it as an opportunity to spend God's money somewhere in the right direction that you like, because you might, this room here was created as a daycare, and that's why it has so many windows, because by code we're supposed to have so much daylight. And across was the room for the staff, and the bookstore with the other room with the daycare, and the washroom around the corner, because we wanted to do something for the kids, for next generation, so they can be raised in the church. Let's say we didn't do it for a different reason, just we couldn't find the proper staff to run it. But let's say tomorrow we say, let's start the daycare, we're gonna start it, but we need $50,000 to start the project. And you hear about it, and then you need to be the first one to run to take the blessing. It doesn't mean you're gonna have to give $50,000 to the church. You can give $100, but the first one, because this is your heart is in the right place. This is what I mean. And I'm not starting the daycare anytime soon, so you can. I'm just giving an example that you have to be attentive to any situation that someone in need, a family is in need. Then you just take the blessing. It's a blessing for you. And I think that Saint Clement that said that, but I'm not 100% sure if the rich people, was saying helping people that because God provided for everyone, but rich people took more and left poor people. So but God is fair and provided for everyone. So if we can help, as this actor was saying, that God gave us two hands, one to help ourselves and one to help the poor as well. Of course, humility is extremely important because as the rich becomes humble, God gives them more spiritual richness, which is more important, because this is what will last to eternity, not the money. We all know that the money will not last. This is all that I have to share with you for today. I cut it a bit short. I removed some stuff because I know it's just too much. Any questions?
So when we give, we always get back from God. God always rewards us giving, but how do you balance giving without thinking about it? Like sometimes you want to give, but you know that God's going to reward you, although that's not your intention, but the thought is there.
The thought is a war. What's in your heart is not that. In your heart, you actually wanted to give. You wanted to be the first one to give. You wanted to be not known that you give. But the thought, as the fathers they always say, the birds will fly over your head, and you cannot prevent them, but you can prevent them from nesting on your back. This is the same. The thought will come and go, and you use the thought as a prayer, for a reason for a prayer. So you get the thought that, I'm helping because God's going to give me more, and you just pray right instant on the spot. This way stops the war, because the devil doesn't want you to pray. So every time he's going to remind you of that, and you pray, then he's going to try to stop because he doesn't want you to pray. So you said, Lord, have mercy. I don't deserve the money, give me, and that's it. You just do it, and the thought comes again. You do it again, and at some point it will stop.
Just to build on that, sometimes you feel bad, like when you donate and you get a tax receipt. And
Yes.
It's like, well, donating, but I'm also getting a tax break. So I really,
There is two sides to this. First, you should get a tax receipt. Who's works here for CRA? Because really, you're not richer than CRA. So you should get the tax receipt if you can. But you raised a good point. There's so many situations that you wanted to help, but you can't get a tax receipt. And some people do not donate because they're not getting a tax receipt, and that's wrong. But if you try at all cost and effort to get a tax receipt, especially if you're big donations, because let's say someone donated $100,000 and he is in a high tax bracket, 54%. He's gonna get back $40,000-$50,000. I'm not good exactly at the rules of CRA, but literally $40,000-$50,000. Just like if he say, no, the Bible said your left hand shouldn't know what your right hand is doing. Yes, but you're not. This is the Bible saying it based on what's in your heart. You wanted people to see you, but of course, when I donate by check, people will see it. But it's but who else would know other than maybe the treasurer? Maybe. Like if you have a treasurer like me, I don't recall anything, honestly. Like people come to me at the church and I really see that I don't know even your name. So, and I have to look for it, and I have no clue what to look for. Is it $200 or $20,000? And I seen a donation $1 million. I seen donations for $20. So I seen it all. So I have no clue what to expect when I look for something. So as long as you take the receipt, because simply if you feel bad that you got money back, this is actually the time to can give more than 10%. And anyone that's struggling with it, when they ask me as a treasurer, and I tell them, fine, take the money back when CRA send it to you, give it back to the poor or to someone in need, because you can't go wrong in this case. Then you are getting more than 10% and you didn't take the money.
I had a question regarding, so one of the slides you're talking about how we need to be on the lookout for a good deed and a place to maybe donate or a place that we can help.
Yes.
But I feel like right now, and especially that we're in Canada and we're in the church here, the church is very active. There is always the opportunity, there's always a daycare, there's always a school to provide tuition, there's always a hospital or medical need or providing food for the needy.
Yeah.
And on the other side of it, you were mentioning how we need to have trust and that God will always provide, but you also gave the example of so your company, and that you need to plan for the future and plan for a rainy day.
Yeah.
So, and then you mentioned that we need to be discerned and wise in the way that we deal with our money.
Yes.
So then how do we balance always looking out for a good place to put our money, because there will always be a good place to put our money in every single extra cent that we have,
Yeah.
that we can save for the future for a rainy day.
Yeah.
We can also put it in a good place.
Well, yeah, then to simplify it, because it is a balance and it's difficult, to simplify it, you take what you wanted to donate, let's say 10%, the minimum is 10, obviously, but let's say you decided to do 15%. I'm just gonna, your situation in life is good enough that you can do more, but let's say even 10%. Then when you have this 10% put aside, once you hear there's a need, some people put it in a separate bank account and knows this is not their money and they're gonna spend it on something that they like to donate to. Like some people say love to help the poor in Egypt, so they do that. But what I'm saying, let's say now you decided to only donate 10% of your money, and now you already donated this month as money, but you heard about something, and then you don't go and do another 10% or 20%, but you be part. It's all about what's in your heart and a small amount. I'm not saying to donate the money you have, because you are building your future and getting ready and so on. There's nothing, and God is not expecting more than this from you. But it just, but let's say you are in a stage in life that you have everything you need, everything you want, and now we have money. You cannot stick to the 10% rule anymore, because you have to think, as what he said, it's a stewardship. I'm just, God, give me more money. Hany, take what you need from it, but the rest, you just please manage it for me. So you have to be in the lookout for something that's needed. And sometimes, and thank God the church here in a reasonable financial situation, but sometimes we seen in the beginning was very difficult because people wanted to send all the money to the poor in Egypt, but there's no one paying the mortgage. So you have to, this is another dilemma in the churches in North America. All the churches are built like any house with loans and mortgages. So, and it was a struggle for me being the treasurer. I have to be very honest. If somebody put a check for $10,000 to the poor in Egypt, it has to go to the poor. It is not negotiable. So that's where one of the bishops, Amba Yusuf, he actually solved that problem by saying that 10% that you're supposed to donate has to go to your local church that serves you and your wife and your kids and so on. And you want to help the poor, it has to be more than the 10%. But this is his opinion, but I find it has some logic to it that makes sense. Like I said, thank God the situation here is good and it's under control and there's nothing wrong with this. But of course you can't take, you're trying to save for a down payment of a house and you hear a church is being built and they need $2 million and you take the money you have. This is not the right thing to do. You just do what you can, because what you end up with, like you will regret it at some point. The devil will use it against you, saying, okay, you donated all your money, now you have nothing. This is, who told you to do that? And it becomes an issue. So that's why I said, follow just the 10 to 20% rule. It depends on your situation in life. And of course, so you get, at some point, you can end up donating more. You know the store, JCPenney in the States? The owner, who's Christian, he started obviously donating the 10%. They said when he died, he was donating 90% and keeping the 10%, because he had so much money that the 10% was enough for anything he could imagine. So he kept donating. I went to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and to train the police once with my partner Ken, and when we went, they said we're gonna train in Hershey House, and I went and it was Mr. Hershey, and was a Christian person, donated the whole house for the poor, but was, again, this is a great example of great house, like not house, it's like almost something like this, like a big building for the poor, the orphans or something like this. But 100 years later, that was 100 years ago. 100 years later, it was just a dump that we started to shoot stuff, so because it's all run down. So if you don't donate to the right people, to the right organization that they can take care of this, it also can be gone and waste. So you use, like I said, to start, 10% is the first rule, because it's difficult. There's so many people can't do the 10%, struggling with it until now. That's because they fall into the trap is, when I have more, I will give. It doesn't work this way. The way it works is you be honest, whatever God gives you, you donate the 10%. And some they also fall into, I'm gonna keep it in my bank account because I don't like St. George. I don't like St. Mary, actually. I don't like and I don't like this. And this is part of the war. Then you keep it in your bank account. And I seen that. And seen one guy, in a good way though. He said, I came to Canada in 2010 or so. And he kept putting his donation aside and until then, until the pandemic hit. And of course, here, as the church was no income, there's no church, was no income. And then I found this guy comes and saying, I was saving my donations since 2000, and he was a pharmacist. And I'm saving my donations since 2010, and it's a huge amount. And I think this is the right time to donate it to the church. So, but he got away with it. Someone else, in a bad day, he feels why God got me, cancer or kidney failure or something. He will take the 10% back that he put it on a side account for the donations. So it's good to donate it as you see fit. But if you feel, I don't know, you could delay a month or 2 or 3, but just put it aside. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
I had another question. Sorry. So I hate the story of the rich man that went to Jesus and Jesus asked him, so
Yeah.
this rich man, he came to him and he told him, I did everything that's good.
Yeah.
And Jesus asked him, okay, so leave your money and
Yeah.
carry your cross and come and follow me. And I hate that story because realistically speaking, I don't know how many people in the world rich or
Can
like
do-
regular income or
Yeah.
even like
Yeah.
anything, how
Can
many
do
people
that.
can have,
Yeah.
And if who's gonna be better than this rich person who did everything that's good?
You have to take this story with a little bit of understanding that God, when God comes to each one of us, He look at what is our weakness that we need to work on. So He will not go to someone that's living in a spiritual life and try to make him, say, war with him and let's say lust, for example. So God knew this rich man he trusts in his own money. And he will die, he will perish, he will not be good. So God just told him that and leave what he have. It's just a matter of trust. God is not going to take the person's money. It's almost, Abraham, when he wanted to know how the resurrection will happen, how the salvation will happen, he was like kind of itching. I want to know, I want to know. And Jesus said that, Abraham, like he was desiring to see my day, meaning how the salvation will happen. And God like sort of fine, you want to see? Okay, come. And then he told them, offer your son as a sacrifice. And okay, and Abraham is like obeying that. Same, we don't know the rest of the story. What if the rich man, what he was going to do? What Jesus was going to do if the rich man said, okay, here's all my possessions. We don't know the reaction, but let's say Abraham did it. He said, okay, here's all my possession. Here's my son. I'm going to slaughter him because he asked me to. And at the end, and Abraham had faith, and this is where he's missing the trust and the faith in God, that he told his servants, I'm going to go offer sacrifice and we come back. How he said we? You're going to slaughter your son. You're going to kill him. No, but I don't know what's God's plan. I just trusted him that he's not going to harm my boy somehow. Or then he went, offered his son, and as he's ready to slaughter him, God told him, stop, don't do that. So I can imagine that story can end up the same way. Say, yes, Lord, all what I have is all yours. He's going to say, keep it. Even as a father, sometimes we do that with our kids. Honestly, sometimes you say, give me, if it's a chocolate bar, you just give me the chocolate bar. And they say no, and finally, if they're giving it to you, you will never eat it, ever. Take your son's chocolate bar and eat it. You'll give it. Bad example. Well, even if we do, that's us because we are weak, but God is not going to eat your money for sure. So I know that story is annoying, and that's why I put a full slide at the end how the rich can be saved, because he was rich. And he was saying by thanksgiving and by trusting in God and the stewardship, knowing what I have is not mine and so on. And if I know what I have is not mine, and God asked me, sell all what you have. Sure, it's not mine. I'm not gonna starve. He took care of me, all of that. So fine. It's very hard to do, but it's just you know, it's more like a test to show what's in his heart. And his heart to have full of money, like love of money, and it's the root of all evil.
But can't we say that if we're not willing, or I'll say if I'm not willing to sell all that I have
Yes.
and trust in him to provide for me when I'm on the streets or whatever,
Yes.
wouldn't that be to some extent love of money? Wouldn't that be to some extent evil in my heart to a certain extent?
It is, and that's why we need to work on what's taking away that trust from God. It would be bad on our part, but it's I don't know if God put me in that test what I would react, and I hope with all the faith I have that I would say yes, Lord, and what I have is yours.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're done with that one first. Okay, so I'm trying to understand the 10%.
Yeah.
Versus, if, I don't know, your right hand and your left hand should know. So the 10% is kind of calculated and you know exactly what you're giving.
Yes.
Versus random and not knowing and
Yes.
just random donations, whatever, like you're not really calculating it. So isn't that kind of conflicting?
No, the left hand and right hand is to give and expect people around you to know that you give. That's all of the purpose of this, meaning, you know, someone brought the sandwiches this morning, and he made sure when he comes here, he's noticed. I'm not talking about anyone's film, but because I want them to understand I brought the sandwiches. Okay, then he, in this case, he's in his heart wanted people to see him, and he could be more hypocrite. And again, I'm not talking about anyone. I'm just because that person is going to later on put an expensive claim with the church, and he's going to get paid for it. So imagine someone did that on purpose, which is showing that I'm donating, and it's not even donating. This is horrible. So really, the left hand and right hand is just so people don't know. So in your heart, you don't want people to know. However, there is nothing wrong of giving, you know, randomly, but sometimes, often it's a lot less often. So, but if someone is giving randomly, one time is high, one time is low, it's fine. It's not something like, you know, God looks at the heart. That's the bottom line. The 10% is not, it's just a way. Like, you know, if someone is like, okay, well, I don't know how to donate, I need to save for a house. So this is just something to calculate, to gauge with. And also that's the blessing, like, you know, God gives, we said he gives it 100%, and we're just giving him some back from it. That's it. So the random, it's the same idea. If someone opened the Bible randomly to read a chapter, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but a systematic approach to reading the gospel is definitely always paid off and much better way, because this is how it should be. So, but it's donating randomly, I don't see an issue with it, but it's just how do you calculate random? Like nobody carry cash anymore. So if these days, if I do the random, then I will never even be. So anyway, so the random in this case will be basically will never be related to my income. And there was a saying, it says, make your donation relative to your income, so God doesn't make your income relative to your donations. So it's not a verse in the Bible, but just a kind of a hint, is like, you know, because you give more, God give you more, and that's how it starts. If you give little, God, okay, if he's not managing my money, why would I give him more? And even God, afraid of giving more to someone, cannot manage little, because he will think it's all mine. I got it. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered the question. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? I guess I put an alarm so I don't sleep too much. Okay. Thank you so much.